was waiting to go live on there, which is funny. Hopefully, should all be, yeah, looks like it's all up and running now. Hope everyone's doing well, enjoying their Friday. And welcome to the studio. This is our Friday studio jam. I always try and do a bit of a stream on Friday, just sort of talking about what I'm working on and what sort of stuff I've got going on at the moment. Feel free if you're working alongside, or let us know what you're doing whilst we do this. And today I've got a couple of things that I've been working on. I've got the thumbnails for issue 2 of Fruit is currently in the works. So at the moment I do a lot of that stuff on digital, and then eventually it gets passed on to doing sort of traditional ink stuff in the end before it gets coloured and gone from there. So currently working on that, and then also have this commission for a BatGirl piece, which I sort of start today. I will kind of just show you a little bit of like how I do these sort of processes. The final piece will be done on inks on paper, but to begin with, I kind of start on the Wacom here. I kind of find it just makes it a lot easier for getting sure the inks are right, the anatomy and stuff I can correct nice and quickly, and then also it really helps me when I'm working in tone as well, because I can easily work out what parts of the drawing need to be grey or black or white, especially when you're working in comics. So I did a little thumbnail for it, which is also the thumbnail to this piece. So this was my little quick thumbnail that we're going to be working from, kind of like a little 1-point perspective, and then I'm going to sort of start from there. So it's been absolutely boiling hot here in the UK, so I'm trying to stay regulated, but it's pretty difficult. I had to close all of the windows to stop the noise from pushing through, but it's not been too bad so far, I think. I've got a little bit of a low bit rate on the stream, but hopefully that shouldn't be too much of a problem. If there is any problems, just let us know in chat and I'll try and get it fixed on my side. Right, so usually a lot of these things start from working in my sketchbook. Sorry, I still got my coffee on me going. I think at the moment it's actually Heroes Con that is going on at the moment. I was planning to go to that this year, but things got delayed a little bit with the comic, and so it looks like I'm gonna take I've taken a miss from it from this year, and I'll probably come back to it next year. But in terms of shows and stuff, I'll definitely be here for I think Thought Bubble in November is the main one for me at the moment, with Fruit coming around about October sort of time, so it's worth keeping an eye. We also have a Discord that is down in the description that you're more than welcome to join. It's just full of people who also make comic books and want to sort of talk about what they're working on and sort of share their pieces, etc., etc. as well. Let's not do that. Cancel. Okay. So might not be able to see that, but that is my perspective grid that I want to put on here. I'm gonna actually just put like buildings like straight. Still need to make that decision. Oh, that might be quite cool to have them like twisted. So one of the things I was looking at when I was researching what I wanted to do for this commission was actually just how rubbish I think Batwoman's costume is. Like, I'm not even sure what's going on with it, but I can't. I think it could be a lot cooler. So we're going to try and do a little bit of that today. Do 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 do. Start off pretty loose on where I'm gonna go with this. I like the shape, maybe not long enough. I have quite a long cape shape. On this one, right. And then I think we're actually going to go over and then like a walk for this shape here. Trying to think of the perspective and like the box that she's gonna be fitting into. If you imagine this kind of perspective grid over the top, and the box that she's sort of being contained within for that one point that I'm looking at. Right, I need to pull up some of my references as well, so I've got a bit more of a better shot at this one. Bum, 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 bum. I hope everyone's Friday is going well. Usually have a few people popping in, Jamie, etc. Usually working from home on various different things. So it's quite fun to catch up with people and see what they're up to. Trying to pull up, I had a reference picture for this one that I wanted to use. So I'm going to see if I can find that again. Yeah, cool. Actually, this is way too low. So we'll start that one. Again, right, so maybe here. And then work on, actually want to bring it like more up. And then we're going to come down, and then it's going to be quite like the idea of like a bat skirt. Kind of skirt shape. And have a little fans. Do a head like this, or do you think it's probably cooler if it's got a bit more of a tilt? This way. Have a bit more of a tilt to it, I think, and then it'll be this. Trying to think about that perspective grid the whole time as well, and where these things are wrapping around from. Actually, we've got these legs that I've got to try and work out. So this first one is going to come hip, and then forward, and this is going to be down to the knee, around here, and then we're going to go around. I think I actually need to be much further up with this. Skew this one a lot more. Bum, bum, bum. Need to perspective warp it. That's not what I wanted. Edit, transform. Try and think about where the reference is, and then how I wanted to skew this one. Think a little bit better on that as well, and then it's going to be quite. She does have those crazy boots. So I think actually we want to be a bit above the vanishing point here. Which I think actually is that vanishing point's really far. Because we're all going to be completely. I am trying to work out where this vanishing point is going to be on this sketch. Probably down by those ones. So the vanishing point's going to be somewhere about here. Which would then make this like a box, as well as this one in like with sort of shape, but we're going to stand it. No, it needs to be kind of much wider stance than that. That's not going to be the right way. All right. Okay, let's go. I feel like this leg isn't really where I want it to be. It's not kind of the much of a stance that I prefer. I think I need it to be a little bit more aggressive. Like angle this back. And it gives a much nicer kind of triangle shape to the composition. This is just going to confuse things, so I'm going to take that off and then we'll work it out later when we've got like a proper perspective grid. And then it's just like head to, I guess the heel is kind of here. And then we've got like a big stompers. That was way too big. Okay. This one is going to be a bit more difficult. I need to think about this a little bit more. So the hips cross this way. It comes down, and then you got this shape into the knee, and then down, and then it's on. Okay. This place, and then this one is a bit straighter down. Comes out from about here. And we're going to see a lot more of the it's going to come this is too, it's not working the way I would want it to. I think so. We'll pull a bit tighter on here. Which is going to be on like a building here, and then we'll have other buildings in the background. So you can even pull this a bit further back, I think, would be my thought. Dun, 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 dun. Bring this one a bit further around. Yeah, and like just make it quite fun or something. Okay, and then I wanted to obviously Bat t-shirt, which goes crazy, and then I wanted like a little strap, because I always thought it's so funny to me how it's not gonna be that way, how Batman has like a million pouches, and I just think, why? What have you got to carry? Like what do they all fit? They're so like useless as like a little thing. So she's gonna have a little satchel. That's not going to be much fun, so what I'll do is I'll rotate that a little bit. Can you feel a bit more? In perspective, and then we're going to have a load of like Scooby-Doo stuff, little keychains and Labubu's. Because that's what the girls want. Right, that's what don't quote me on that. But I just think this is my like 2 cents on BatGirl. She doesn't to me feel like a girl's girl, you know? And I feel like she should be. I feel like she's not kind of embodying what I would like her to be. So one of the great things about being a comic book artist is you can make your own story and how I want this character to look. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. And then we'll have buildings. So usually just the horizon line's down here. So things will probably shoot up over, and you can have a ton of stuff just sort of floating about. You kind of looking to frame her a little bit. With this one, to try and work out something like that. And then let's pop a. So and I've got this like loose sketch down, I kind of and then what I'll do is I'll come in with like a 30% grey. Put that all over the figure. Have a little bit of accuracy if I can, but you know, not worrying too much about everything at the moment. And then what this does is it just gives a bit of a mid-tone to then work out what's going to happen with the rest of the drawing. Just helps even everything out, and then before I'm doing like a really fine line art, I know what parts have to be dark. I can work out a little bit of like the lighting scheme and then how everything is going to pertain to each other. Cool. So, I think I'm going to do this quite big and loose and just sort of block in the, well, that's taking a while to work out. My Photoshop slowed right down. Little bit of like what's gonna that's not the right, let's get the right. It's important to get the right lines on here for your perspective, because that is what's gonna sell it. It's the buildings are kind of really, I find, quite repeat shapes, but what's gonna sell your abilities is just how you convey those repeat shapes over and over again. So if we're gonna have this, maybe it's gonna be dark around, dark to here, and then this is the, to find the right line for that, the floor. So you go here, and then maybe this is, you're going to go dark with that. Could go dark with that flooring, because at the moment it's not the most. At the moment it kind of just like comes down to the shape that you're looking for, and the greys are going to help draw attention. So I've got this cutting across, these diagonals. I kind of want her to not be too distracting, so I think at the moment we'll hit the ground with a grey, this sort of mid-tone. Wow, it's really slowed down, eh? See if Photoshop can catch up. How do I feel about that composition? She's not feeling to me like she's above anything. So maybe what we're looking for is like some sort of darker shape. It's gonna pull it away. I think that's too dark though, huh? Because we want the highest contrast to be on the figure. On these sort of like legs. And then here, and this. I think full black's gonna be too dark for those though, huh? Certainly at the moment. It does seem a bit much. It's like a 50% grey. It's a bit nicer, isn't it? Okay. So you know that this is dark. The dark. So, I'm going to have this sort of 50% grey, and it's all about working at this really small scale at the moment because I'm just trying to problem solve. I'm not really focusing in too much on like the detail of what's going on. All I care about is that relationship of values that's going to create the final image. So maybe this needs to be quite dark. I'm not sure at the moment. But certainly that's going to create some nice contrast maybe there. Maybe it's a very dark horizon line and then everything above it's going to be a lot lighter. Yeah, that could work. Alternatively, you can hit the whole thing with like a underlying grey, and then pull it out with some whites. But I don't think that's the contrast that I'm looking for. I do quite... no. Much more of a striking image if you do it this way around. Right, so, and then we have some shine on these boots. Try and work out what parts will be light and which parts won't be. Well, the arms are going to be quite reflective, I think, at this point here. I think, is that, let's have a little look. So I always, as everyone will probably tell you, it's always worth checking, because I did think that looked a bit squint, and I definitely think it feels a little bit squint. Like the weight, you can see the weight here is not feeling correct. So like if she's, all of her weight is going through here, she's kind of like overly leaning back. So I probably need to, maybe I can do it in a, can I, yeah, I think so. Feels a bit more like the weight is now kind of in the right place, because that's kind of one of the issues there, I think. Let's have a look. Image interpretation. Yeah. Better. Certainly better. But now these buildings aren't in the right perspective. So the reason why I use such a hard brush for these things is that I kind of want to replicate what the brush is doing when I'm inking, because that's not. So one of the problems I tend to find is if you use a brush that kind of layers over each other, more like a pen or something. In when you're doing these thumbnails for inks, the problem I find is that it's not an effect that you can really easily achieve when you're using such like binary coloring, with the sort of values that you get with traditional inks. So I try and stick to colors that I can, or like things that I can easily achieve with the tools I have, and a lot of that is screen tone and then black and white. So not overly complicating things too much is kind of the name of the game here. Maybe put her on like a tilt, is that crazy? There's a little bit of like fish eyeing that I can see, so I'm just going to sort of block in some buildings. Inverted commas, maybe this one. Oops. I don't know, just some simple like shitty buildings, and they'll do for the moment, just to work out what's going on with the character. Quite like this maybe being like a braided sort of thing. I don't know, like a little chain. I think it's just like a little bit of fun for her as a character. Oh, it's definitely going to go over here, sorry. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's like here and then over and then, yeah, bat signal of some description. Just a bit more detail on the boots. Yeah, I had a bit of a rim lighting there, and then I need to work out. I think all these buildings are just gonna be in like a variations of grey. Because the main thing I need to work out is how to make her stand out the most, and I think, you know, it just depends if I want to put in like a silly amount of work into the background. Decisions. It's always a decision. On here. And then I can take this darker grey and interesting shape. This one goes to here. This shape here. I do feel like this would be darker. In terms of value. Maybe? I think. Oh yeah. Because what we can do now is, so you see how we can just like put fucking, I don't know, visual information around the place. But not like that. It's more, whatever these will be in perspective. Sort that out, and then you can go down much thicker here, and then maybe just make it like really pop. Yeah, something, I think maybe a darker value here is going to help push a little bit. Maybe it needs to be dark under there to draw more of a contrast. This is also going to be a little bit dark. I think though this is too dark, it's just like too big a shape. Maybe not. Maybe it's okay. Have a think about that whilst I put you guys on the adjustable. Remember to stand up. That's kind of the biggest problem I've got when I work in the studio for a long time, is I just spend my whole life sat down. I think this is okay. Still think this is probably maybe a bit high for the perspective. We'll swap that one around and have a look at that again. Let's make our perspective lines a little bit darker. Okay. Oh, probably shouldn't have done that, but still want to rasterize this. Right, so that's our perspective in the background. Need to I think this needs to come way down to like here. So this is where everything is meeting. So this is like effectively the horizon line. Well, not effectively, it is the horizon line. So we're actually like more of a line like this. And then this would come a bit more this way. Oh, no. Cool. So I think that seems pretty good in terms of what I wanted from like the initial thumbnail. So I can run you through what I've done here. Obviously started with this little, ooh, maybe you can see. Started with my thumbnail here, and then we did a little basic sketch, little line work, and then I like to add these little greys just to give me a bit more of an idea of what's going on when I'm colouring it, like what parts of the drawing are going to be what shade in the inks, and that just gives me a lot more control. And then what I will do now is take this group and then I drop it all the way down in opacity. Also the greys like help me see the form, if that makes sense. So you can see like as I've dropped this grayscale down, I can kind of still understand the rotations of what's going on here, like this form as it rotates. And then I know that that's like the rib cage or like the edges of this and stuff like that as well. So I tend to find that's the easiest way for me to produce these little commissions and stuff. But yeah, so that is pretty much what I'm doing. I'm going to work a little bit more on this off stream and sort of push through it. But yeah, if you guys obviously can have a look on my Instagram and see, maybe look out first. Maybe I'll work on this next week and make it a bit of a rolling thing, just sort of seeing how far we can go with this commission live on stream. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll drop it in my Discord as well, the thumbnail of where we've got to and where we're going to go sort of going forward. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you all next week for another studio jam. Yeah, I need to work out a way to bring a bit more energy and stuff to these. I always find it quite a bit of a challenge when you've got like commissions and stuff going on, like how to bring a bit of energy, but we will definitely try again. Yeah, thanks for everyone for joining and watching, and yeah, I'll catch you all